So we have a new mimer from the Dvar Malchus. It's on this week's parsha. That one of the brachas that Bilam gave was Mimona Afar Yaakov, and that's from Tafshin Lamed Gimel, like most of the Amarim from the Dvar Malchus Nar this year, from the year Tafshin Lamed Gimel. Siyat Shema Yom He Parshas Balak Yud Beis Tammuz, Mimer Beis, meaning it's the second mimer that the Rebbe said in connection with Yud Beis Tammuz. The mimer that we learned last week was a Yud Beis Tammuz mimer as well. And here's another mimer that's a Yud Beis Tammuz mimer. Mimon Afar Yaakov, who can count the dust of Yaakov, meaning the people of Yaakov. Bilam said how numerous the Yidden are, Misparas Rebbe Yisrael, and the number of the seed of Yisrael. In a Apirish Apostle, because of the Koyal's man is ever Gama Mashiach. The simple meaning of this pasuk that's referring to both on this time, on the present time, and also on the days of Mashiach, which ain't la mispa, is that means that there is no number, there's no count of to the cloud to Bnei Yisrael. So Amri Mimana, that's why he says, who can count? Who counted? Meaning this idea that who counted comes to tell you, Balosh and Shaltmiya. It's like, it's no wonder. Who can do this? How could it be a possibility to count the dust of Yaakov? It's hard when you understand this idea that there's no number to the Yidden. That is something that's an impossibility. Literally, without number, that's an impossible thing. Though it's true that it could be very great number, a very unbelievable number that's like it can't be counted. As great as the number is, as powerful and as great the number could be, and as much as the number is, since we are referring to souls in bodies, why is it called dust? Dust is reminiscent of the fact that the bodies come from the earth. And roiva, which is the seed, is reminiscent that the physical body is created by the seed. So therefore, we're talking here about the physical bodies of the Yidden. The soul's in the body, but there's a physical body. So they are alive, living in this earth. Since the Chazal say that to travel, to walk from east to west, would take 500 years of walking, so there is a specific number, though it's a very great number, that the earth is able to contain. So therefore, since the earth is limited, and because it's limited, it can only contain X amount, how's it possible to say who counted or who can count that there has no number? That's one question that the Rebbe said. Another question is also we need to have an explanation in the exact language over here of who counts or who can count. The common expression used for something that is beyond number is the phrase, there's no number. Like we see, Legdudav Ein Mispar, it says that to his companies of Malachim, brigades of Malachim, there's no number. It says to his understanding, there's no number like we have in Hillim and Davening. Why does he say over here, instead of just giving a statement that there is no number to the Yidden, he says, who counted? Who can count? By the very expression, who can count, that shows that there is a possibility of saying that there's a certain number, a specific number. Afterwards, it comes to a decision that it's a matter of a wonder. Who counted the dust of Yankov and the number of the seeds of Yisrael? So the very fact that you're saying who counted or who can count, that indicates like someone is challenging and saying, one can count it. And he says, yeah, you can count it. Who can count it? When you use the term who, it's like, of course, it's an expression that it's not something that can be done, but it's also an expression that allows for a possibility of it. That's the Rebbe asks, why use an expression that shows a possibility of counting instead of just saying it flat out, there is no number. Third question that I've asked from the bottom of the page, line 23. We need to understand why specifically of the two names that the Eden are called, Yaakov versus Yisrael, the dust is something, and earth is something that's associated with Yaakov. And we find that this is very specific. Like we're going to bring down from the Medrash, Kadis of a Medrash, like it's brought out from Medrash. Avram Nizbarach B'Kechav. Avram Avinu was given the bracha that the Yidden will be like stars. B'nei Yisrael Nimshal Kechavim, that the Yidden are likened to the stars. He took him out to the heavens. He said, look at the stars and see that just like there's no count to the stars, the same thing, there will be no number to the Yidden. Yitzchak Nizbarach B'Chayil, and Yitzchak on the other hand, top of page above, was benched that the Yidden would be like sand, like the sand at the sea. But Yaakov Nizbarach B'Faroretz, and Yaakov was given the bracha of being like the dust of the earth. Like it says that Hashem promised Yaakov that your seed will be like the dust of the earth. So we see there's a certain connection between the term of afar ha'aretz, the dust of the earth, and the idea of Yaakov specifically. That's explained concerning this for the following reason. The inheritance of Yaakov is called an inheritance without boundaries. Hashem promised all the three of us, he promised them an inheritance for the children of Eretz Yisrael. Yet, when he spoke to Avraham Avinu and he spoke to Yitzchak, he gave certain limitations to the inheritance. When he spoke to Yaakov, it was Nachla B'li Mitzarim. He gave him an inheritance without boundaries. Like it says, after Hashem told Yaakov that your seed will be like the dust of the earth, that you will burst forth, you will spread forth to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. Like the Gemara emphasizes this difference between Yaakov and the others. It doesn't use that expression of just saying they will burst forth to all sides of the compass without giving a particular limit and saying, and they will stop at so and so. It doesn't say that. It says, rise up and go in the land to its length and its breadth. That this expression of length and breadth indicates that there is certain boundaries of the land. In a similar vein, when it says about Yitzchak and it speaks about the land that Hashem promised Yitzchak, it also indicates limitation, and it also indicates that there is a certain end and a certain boundary to it. As opposed to the expression of Paratzta, it says by Yaakov, the idea behind it is the breaking forth and the removal of boundaries. Medidas, v'hagbolas, all types of measures and boundaries. So we see that Yaakov was unique, and because Yaakov was unique, so therefore he had the bracha of afar. He had the bracha of the dust of the earth, He says in line 13, Shazel Lafishi Yaakov is Baruch Ba'afar, because Yaakov Avinu was specifically given the bracha of the earth, the dust of the earth, that the dust of the earth has no boundaries and has no number, not like, I guess, neither the stars, as great and as many as the stars are, still the stars are only as much as you can see in the sky, whatever, and even the sand by the sea, that's only by the sea, etc. By Yaakov, it's the dust of the earth, it's all over the earth. So therefore, there's no number to it. So because the inheritance of Yaakov was a nachla b'li mitzarim, so therefore the term and the bracha that Yaakov was given was similarly. That his children will be also like the dust of the earth that has no number to it. Line 14, Gamsar Lahav knows when you understand. This very bracha of who counted is divided into two parts, two sections of this bracha. Yaakov, in the first part, Yidden are called Yaakov, like it says, Mimana Afar Yaakov, who counts the dust of Yaakov, the earth of Yaakov. That though the meaning of who counted, who heim benegel Afar Yaakov, heim benegel lemispar Yisrael, the who counted refers both to the dust of Yaakov and both concerning the numbers of the seed of Yisrael. Uki'ilu nichtav mimana afar Yaakov mimana mispar of Yisrael. The word mimana, it's as if it was written twice. Who has counted the dust of Yaakov and who has counted the number of the seed of Yisrael? Malcolm still in Benegel, Afar Yaakov, number Begoli Mimana, Sheinam Kinas Mispar. Concerning the dust of Yaakov, it says openly who counted, that it's not in a level of number. It's explicitly said in the pasuk that there's no number. As opposed to the number of the seed of Yisrael. It's only just because the pshat is that this is also the reference of the word who counted. But it doesn't say openly who counted. Until there's also an explanation. There is a Maimer Chazal that literally takes that division and says when it comes Mimana, Mashanamran Mimana, when it says who counted Koirach Alapar Yaakov, that's only referring to the dust of Yaakov. But when it comes to Roiva Yisrael, the seeds of Yisrael, that is something that has a number. That is something that can be counted. Any questions before we go on? Okay, top of page Bays. Top of page Zion, Ice Bays. You've not be understood the difference over here after the prefacing of the difference between Yaakov and Yisrael. There's this difference. And in this passage, there's this division that over here, they're called the Bnei Yisrael, are called Yaakov, and they're in other words, there's a difference in the pasuk itself, one part and another part. So to be able to understand that, we have to go into the differences between Yaakov and Yisrael. And the idea behind this is this difference is based on psukim. Yaakov is a name that he was given at birth. Before Yaakov began his avodah, he was called Yaakov. Mashenkin Hashem Yisrael, as opposed to the name Yisrael, Shabai Namaratam. That over there it says the reason Kisarisa im Elikim Vanoshim Batucha. Why are you called Yisrael? Because you had ruled over and like battled with malachim and men or powers and mighty ones, and you overcame them. I know this means. This Yisrael indicates an avodah of being powerful over powers of godly powers like malachim and men, and you overcame them. And then the Rebbe goes on to say, yes, there's another novelty in the idea of the name Yisrael itself. That when the Malach said that your name will not be called anymore Yaakov, it'll be called Yisrael. Nemaratam, it says the reason, because you battled, because you overcame, because you overpowered, because you ruled over. Hashem also called him Yisrael, not just a Malach, but Hashem later called him Yisrael. But Hashem doesn't say this reason, as we'll talk about later in Eisbach. So that's the difference between Yisrael and Yaakov. Yaakov indicates something that was done prior to the Avodah, and Yisrael indicates something that's a result of what Yaakov did. So one had nothing to do with what Yaakov did, and the other had to do with what Yaakov did. The Rebbe now challenges his own statement. How can you say that Yaakov had nothing to do with what he did? Yaakov did something, and obviously everything having to do with the others, when they do something, has to do with their avodah. And that doing evoked that name. What did he do? So he says in line 15, though also concerning the name of Yaakov, it says, and his hand is holding on to the heel of Esav. So also the name Yaakov is connected seemingly with the idea of an action. So therefore, why are you telling me that Yisrael has to do with his avodah, and it's a name that has to do with his avodah, whereas Yaakov is a name from birth? Yaakov is also something that he did. He was holding on to Esav's heel that obviously has also spiritual meaning to it, indicating a certain type of avodah that brings about the name Yaakov. So how am I saying that Yaakov is a name that's from birth and Yisrael is based on avodah? So the Rebbe answers in line 18, how do you do? I'm ben Drash Chazal. It's known what's explained in Madrash Chazal. Shashem Yaakov the name Yaakov was given initially, even prior to this. Barak Lamata, in the other Chaz's Gaimer, only down here below when it came to the idea of his hand holding on to the heel. That's when it was revealed down here. But really, the name Yaakov is on its own. Like it says, by Yikra, it says that he called him Yaakov. And Vayikra, who was the Vayikra? So the Chazal say the Vayikra is Hashem called him by that name. So in other words, Hashem called him by that name even prior to all of this. It became revealed down here, that name, after he was holding on to the heel. So again, Yaakov is something that doesn't have to do with the Avodah, and Yisrael is a result of the Avodah. This is the reason for the novelty we find concerning the name Yaakov. That's not like Avram. To call Avram, whoever calls Avram by the name he was before Hashem changed his name, transgresses a positive commandment, that it says in your name should be Avram. As opposed to Yaakov, though it says your name should not be called anymore Yaakov, only Yisrael will be a name. Rather, Yisrael will be a name. Nishar Gam Hashem Yaakov, the name Yaakov remains. and we still call him Yaakov, as we find throughout many places in davening and amongst people and so on. Why was that permitted? The Chazal say Dare Ahad Rekra, because we find that the pasuk called him again Yaakov. So since the Torah calls Yaakov Avinu Yaakov even after the name was changed, whereas by Avram Avinu he's not called Avram anymore after his name was changed, therefore we know that Yaakov Avinu can be called by both names. In other words, he has both the natural, essential name that comes by birth without avodah, and he also has the name that is given to him by avodah, and both of them have a place and room even after the name change took place. By the way, I'm trying to remember other places in Tanakh where there's name changes, where also we don't find it going back, except for Yaakov. Sarai and Sarah, Isaiah, and then Yeshua ben Nun. It escapes me now if there were other cases where there was name changes, where once the name was changed, that's it. The name was changed. I don't know if the person's over be'eser, but the name was changed. By Yaakov, on the other hand, it's not that way. Because by Yaakov Avinu, since Yaakov is, he brings it down a footnote over here from the Alter Rebbe, from Maimon Alter Rebbe, that Avram versus Avraham is not Avram Avinu's essential name. Yaakov is the name of the essence, but to add to it, you have the name Yisrael. So both names are valid even after the name was changed. Let's go on, top of page Ches. This difference in Yaakov Yisrael is recognizable also in the very name itself. When we examine the name itself, the meaning itself of the name. The idea behind this is in Yaakov, the name Yaakov contains in it the letters of the word Akev, heel. The lowest level, in other words. Yisrael has in it the letters of the word head. Shin, Reish, and Aleph make up Reish. The kosher and Yatam Sarisim Milakim Nashmatu is connected with the reason that you have battled and overcome mighty ones and men, and you were successful. When you go to war, when you're Sarisa, that takes place through strategies. That takes place with different types of war plans. That's a result of the intellect that's in the brain. Also the name Yaakov that was given to him from above during birth. Though it's called a heel, so seemingly it's a very low level, but still a normal Mikol Makim, Nimshach by Gam Ois Yud comes down into the name of Yaakov, which is primarily Akev, the heel. It comes down also the letter Yud, Yud, Akev, the Yud coming into the heel, which Mevaira Beinazakum Drusha Torah. Like Alter Rebbe explains no Ambarim Torah. Shayud Moira Allah Kodesh Baruch Hu Shem Havai. The Yud indicates Hashem. The name Yud Kevavke was Cholos Shem Havai. The Yud is the beginning of the name of Yud Kevavke. The Koyal Sfiris HaChachma refers to Chachma. Like we know, Yud is Chachma, Hey is Bina, Vav is the 6 Midas, the last Hey is Malchus. Yesh Begam Kutze Shel Yud. It also has the point on top of the Yud, joining a Keser, just like on top of Chachma, there's Sfiris HaKeser, so too, on top of the Yud, the point on top of the Yud indicates a level of Keser. V'zeu Yud, okay, that's the meaning of the name Yaakov. The Yud in the heel, Shai Yud, Chochma, V'Keser, Nimshach Ad La'akev, that the Yud, which indicates both the level of Chochma, the highest of the 10 spheres, and even Keser, which is beyond the 10 spheres, comes down all the way to the heel, being down here in a deep pit, That's how far down the Yud, the Chochma, and Keser comes down. Therefore, because of Yud Akev, because of this great and mighty aspect that comes down so low to the heel, therefore, Yaakov lifel sham avidosai. That's why Yaakov has the capability to affect his avodah down in the pit. Until he has the capability also to reach the level that you have overcome and you battled with mighty ones, with men, and you have overcome them. How come? How was he able to transition? How, as Yaakov, was he able to reach a level of Yisrael? Because even by when he was Yaakov, he had the Yud in him. Because initially, when he descended below and he came down to be the level of a heel, he had the Yud came down into such a way that the Yud was with them in the heel as well. Ois Gimel, line 20. Another idea in Yaakov being called by the name Yisrael. The name Yisrael validated the brachas that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov, because initially Yitzchak had given the brachas to Yaakov thinking he was Esau. So perhaps those brachas have no validity. He gave it to him by mistake. When the Malach told him that your name will not be said anymore to Yaakov, only it will be called Yisrael because you battled. So the Chazal explained why is it necessary, and Rashi also brings down, why is it necessary this whole lengthy thing? The Malach wants to change his name because you battled and overcame the Malach. So he said, let him say, from now on, your name will be called Yisrael. Why does he have to say, your name will not be called anymore Yaakov, especially since it will be called Yaakov? So what was the point of that whole statement? He would actually be called later on Yaakov. So therefore, it doesn't mean literally. And what's it matter even to say? Just say, let him be called Yisrael. So from this, the Chazal derive, and Rashi even brings it down in Shutashal Mikram. Let it not be said anymore that the brachas came to you in a way of an underhanded fashion, in a way of trickery. Ketainis Esav, like Esav himself said that Yaakov's name related to his underhanded nature. Shashem Yaakov kosher in Yamim Natilas Birchas Yitzchak Ba'akbar Ramiyah. Esav said, yeah, he's called Yaakov because he took the brachas from me with trickery. Moshe Namar, like it says, that when Esav came to Yitzchak after he discovered that Yaakov took the brachas, he said, Achi Koresh Shema Yaakov Akveinu Zepamayim. Isn't that the reason why it's called Yaakov? Because he tricked me twice, or he had to do with my heel twice, or actually he tricked me twice. One was by selling the bechayr over there, and the second time was the time when he took the brachas from me. So Esav said that Yaakov was an indication of the trickery in taking the brachas. And when the Malach said that you should not be called anymore Yaakov, means you should not be said anymore about you took the brachas with trickery, but rather you took it as a ruler. This itself that Yitzchak validated. That the Malach validated the brachas that Yitzchak gave to Yaakov. This itself needs explanation. The Kim Shai Yisrael Allah brachas, since this was already validated by the Malach, and this Malach is known as the Sari Shal Esav, the ministering angel of Esav. Lama hutzrach liis inyan brachas ba'if. Why did it have to go through that way? Why did the brachas have to take place in such a way that there should be room to say that someone will say that your brother came in trickery and took your brachas, since it was anyway going to be validated, since it was anyway a correct and right thing that he should have had the brachas, and as we see that later on, he was validated. So why initially did the brachas have to go through such a way? Why didn't Hashem set up the whole entire system that he should get it in a straightforward way without any of this type of trickery, etc.?